Uh, After lunch, I promise you, you're going to stay awake because this is going to be a session which is even more crackling than the ones that you've heard before. So we're going to now have a session which is called Words to Watch, the Art of Subtitling. And it will feature Nasreen Munni Kabir. Let me just read out a brief introduction about her multifarious achievements. She was born in India and she lives in London and has made several TV series for Channel 4 UK on Hindi cinema, including In Search of Gurudutt and The Inner Outer World of Shah Rukh Khan. Author of 20 books, including Lata Mangeshkar in her own voice, in the company of a poet Gulzar, and conversation books with A.R. Rahman, Javed Akhtar, Zakir Hussain, and Wahida Rahman. Nasreen continues to work as Channel 4's consultant on Indian cinema, curating their annual Indian film season since 1982. She is a former governor on the board of the British Film Institute and enjoys subtitling and has subtitled over 800 Hindi film titles since the mid-80s. She's going to be in conversation with Urvashi Butalia, who's an Indian feminist writer, publisher, and activist. She's known for her work on the women's movement of India, as well as for authoring books such as The Other Side of Silence, Voices from and the Partition of India, Speaking Peace, Women's Voices from Kashmir. She was also awarded the Padma Shri among the host of other honors that she has received thus far. She actually needs no introduction, but we all like to bug her by telling her that she received the Padma Shri.
See, there's only two things to do with mics. One, you hit them. Two, you kiss them. So singers usually kiss, speakers usually hit. So, okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to this session with Nasreen Munni Kabir. I'm going to refer to Nasreen as Munni because that is how I have always known her. And I'm going to, although Manisha has officially introduced her, I'm going to tell you a little story about her and how she and I got to know each other, which was like 40 years ago.
Yes.
About 40 years ago, when I was in London working with a British publishing house for a year or a couple of years, and Munni had just moved there from France to follow adventure and do various things, to do work with Channel 4, right? And to earn a little bit of money, I was putting together some little film festival for a place called the Commonwealth Secretariat, which was on Indian cinema. And Munni got to hear of it and said, do you want some help? And we started talking, and thereby began a kind of love affair, which has lasted to this day, because very soon we found ourselves sharing a flat. And we were both looking for accommodation, and we decided to share a flat. And then I was extremely worried because I thought, you know, here is this Angrez and we're sharing a flat, but she has Indian origin, and I don't know if she's going to cut the butter in half and say, this is your bread, this is my bread, and all of that, because my previous experience of sharing apartments in England, which wasn't long, which was just very short, was that. And then day one, Munni, I'm sitting and working in the kitchen, and Munni comes and says, okay, so what should we cook for dinner today? I'll cook today, you cook tomorrow. And then it became like, ghar ki baat. And then we had an attic upstairs, which we would spend watching horror films at night. So we had one razai, and Munni would get into one end, I would get into the other end, and we'd watch this horror film, and one or the other of us would fall asleep. Then the other one would go down and find her bedroom and go off to sleep. So we became friends in that way, and since then we've known each other. So I've known Munni through many avatars. And her current or latest avatar, which is not her only current avatar, as a person who subtitles films, and as you've heard, the impressive figure of 800. And also she does all the really big hits, the hot hits like Jawan, Pathan, Rocky and Rani, and Archies, and Tiger 3, yes, and various others. And she has also, even though she doesn't have Tamil, subtitled Tamil films along with Mani Ratnam, who sits with her and helps her to subtitle. So, but previous to that, Munni she's a fantastic editor of films. She cut and shaped films in the most wonderful way. She ran a series for Channel 4 television in London called Movie Mahal, which was in the mid 80s, and those were short half-hour programs on the history of different kinds of histories of what we today call Bollywood cinema, at the time called Indian cinema. And one of her most beautiful and moving programs there was one about women that I remember you did, and another one in which you talked about lighting, you know, and how films play with lights. And I still remember that one Guru Dutt film and how that slant of light is coming in and how it's, so I don't know, it was wonderful anyway. So she did that, she's made lots of documentaries, she's made a wonderful two-part thing called The Inner World and the Outer World of Shah Rukh Khan, which she followed Shah Rukh for a long time, something many of us would have been envious of. And then she gave me a compact disc of that documentary, which was promptly stolen from me by Uma Chakravarti, who refused to return it to this day, saying, "Tujhe kya pata hai Shah Rukh ka, mujhe pata hai." So that's the kind of battle that takes place among feminists. Anyway, in recent years, Munni has been subtitling films, and that's what we're going to talk about today in the context of translation. So Munni, having provided a potted history of your life, I'm going to start by asking you, so you never went to a school for subtitling, if there is even any such thing. So when and how did you begin subtitling?
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's lovely to see everyone here. And thank you for calling me, because quite often subtitling is not regarded with enough respect, I think, and enough attention. There other translation, and it is actually, it has other problems. It's not the same as book translation, but it has very, very strict rules. It's almost like, you know, the ustads, they have to stay and come back on the sun, which means we are all about timing. While in a book translation, you can ramble on, but in subtitling, you cannot. You have to be brief and you have to be clear. Actually, there is no specific course. Now they have started, I'm talking about the 80s, and now they've started courses in France particularly, and there are workshops on subtitling, but proper, long degrees and all that, no. People learn on the job. The biggest difficulty is to get your first jobs, because no filmmaker wants to risk giving your film for translation if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to really struggle. And I will honestly say the first film I did was a film which was in French and in English, and the director, Samba, I used to know very well, and he was very kind. He said, "You can try it." And I made a mess of it. I have to tell you, a serious mess of it. And it made me completely conscious that subtitling is clapping with two hands. It is translation, respecting the film, and it is timing and how you place the subtitle on the screen, where you place it. Now, I don't think it will be of great interest, unless you were future subtitlers, for me to go into the technique of it. But so I want to just talk about the broad problems of translating for films. My main translation has been Hindi. The Mani Ratnam film was by chance. I had worked on his Ravan and the subsequent films, and I worked with the Tamil translator. They give me a rough English, then I look at the film, and then I shape the subtitle, and Mani sir comes and sits, and he watches the whole film with me with the subtitles on it. Anything he doesn't like, he will say, "Willie, can you change that? Can you do this? Can you do that?" And you won't believe, how long do you think Ponniyin Selvan Part 1 took for us to check?
I don't know, what, 5 hours?
7. 7 is nothing. It's a 2 hours, 40 minutes. Why did it take so little time? Because Mani Ratnam is absolutely clear bilingually. And he knows his film, and he clearly knows when I'm deviating from translating literally and making it work as dialogue. So when you work with someone who is as clear as Mani Ratnam, there's no problem at all. So basically, what is involved with translation? If you are very lucky, you get a script. The script is in Roman. It's not in Hindi. Most of Hindi cinema is written in Roman script. Don't think it's Devanagari. Salim Javed used to give Urdu, and then it used to be transcribed into Roman for the actors. Some actors could read Urdu, and most of them, with some would read Devanagari, like Mr. Bachchan, but majority would read Romanized script. So you get this script, The script comes in various stages. I won't go into details because that script is changing every 10 minutes. But anyway, from the beginning to the end, you have to get the script which matches the last edit. Because the shooting script, the editing script, and the final script are three different beasts. So basically, you get the last script if you're lucky. Often you get that last script, but the songs are not integrated in the script, so you have to beg them to give you the songs. See, I will give you a big confession. I do not read Urdu and I do not read real language. So how do I do it? I look at the script, I look at the film, and Geeta mentioned one thing which immediately made me think, well, it's the same story. It's all about audio. A film translation is based on soundtrack, and you listen. Now, unlike the translators here, who are dealing with the book and the page, it is entirely their voice that's translating everything. Whereas in a film, the actors are giving you massive pools of information. So, if you listen very carefully, you'll see what kind of vocabulary to use and you can match. I try my best to match the subtitles to the character. So when you say Rocky, anybody see Rocky with subtitles? Well, quite a few. I've done 800 films and that's the only film that got the Twitter spoken. I got lots of comments on Twitter saying they love the subtitles. And to be very honest, it made me bad spelling. Because Rocky, he will say stuff like, yes, education. So instead of I spelled it E-D-U, I will spell it A-E-J-U. The question is in the English, I have to pay attention, but phonetically, if it sounds, it will be English word. I couldn't make it like P-A-D or something crazy. It says excuse me, so it's E-S rather than E-X. So you have to go phonetic. And they loved it to the extent that one Twitter said, who did the subtitles? And big fire mark, which I have to ask, what does it mean hot? And then somebody else said, the second most interesting character in this film are the subtitles. And the third said, I was very happy because after 800 films, somebody out there in the ether has understood what I was trying. And the third subtitle, Twitter said, they're fantastic subtitles. We've got the character completely perfectly, and you should, whoever the subtitle is, should ask the producer to double their fees. So I immediately sent the tweet to her and do you think he replied? No. So let's assume he was busy traveling. But anyway, so that was that story. So basically you get it, you subtitle it, you look at the pacing of it, and the main thing is to not disrespect the fact that it's a story. Why? You do not have to scream in the subtitles. The guy on the screen is screaming. You do not have to actually overdo it because the music is there helping you, the performance is number one helping you, and the fact that his diction is helping you. Older films like the 50s, David Saar, you have the Latsani or you have Nakamali, they were green subtitle because they are really respected. So you are allowed translation in relation to the accent in English. The biggest issue and the big problem is songs. The older songs are easy to do. Sahi Saaf and Shanana. I don't have to say I do the full moon or the sun. You would not try and be a poet and go away. Shanandra is the poet. You're the subtitle. So you must be a little humble. And also people say, she used that one. I thought if the song is a kind of nursery type of song, you run. Otherwise you don't run. It's idiotic. Why? This viewer is going to be looking for the line, not for the shot, not for the film, not for the story, not for the scene. They're looking where is she going to run the next one. And that's rather foolish. However, I wanted you to read something because there was, who's seen the Apata ladies? Okay, there was at Sail or New and I ran there. And I want to listen to the movie or the YouTube dialect.
Okay, Hindi, I can't do UP dialogue. Zohar chori, dui dukhi pana. Pehla dukh chori, duja dukh thana.
So that I made it. June stolen lead to twice the beginning. First the theft, then the police inquiry. Otherwise, I would not write. And in many situations like this have occurred, so you make an effort. But songs,
Yeah, so you're saying you wouldn't rhyme in songs.
unless it's very easy.
What about jokes? What do you do with jokes? Because some of them are so idiomatic, some of them are so culturally specific. I mean, for example, the other day I was talking to somebody and we were talking about digestion, and they used a phrase which I haven't heard since childhood, lakkar hadam tattarazam. How would you translate that?
I don't know. I have to think about it, you know. You have to find an equivalent, but the equivalent should be something that people laugh at. What you have to try and do is not to flatten the subtitles culturally. For example, there are many films now that will say, oh, this man looks just like Shah Rukh Khan. Hindi mein, bahut sare hain. And then I've seen people say, he looks just like Tom Cruise. I have seen subtitles that say that. He looks like Tom Cruise. So, if you show this film in Finland, no one knows who Shah Rukh Khan is. So how do you get over this problem? You keep the culture, you say Shah Rukh Khan, you just add the star Shah Rukh Khan. Or if you have Mika Singh, you add the sprinter Mika Singh. So that is how I would find the solution for this. Otherwise, I would never say equivalence. Because there is no equivalence. You can't, and somebody else translated, I saw a subtitle recently, which was with Kishore Kumar, who was in Ray Charles. Ray Charles. I mean, not even the same genre of music. You know, so they just picked a name for both of them. But, so these are specific problems. The other problem is translating Hessi, Ladi, all these things I don't. At least 30% of the world will be able to understand. And they know the Ladi, they know Hessi, they know Ladi. And if they don't, nobody has translated pizza, risotto. So if they don't know it, they check the net.
Yeah, they can check.
And so there is a way of checking stuff. So that is the thing. I don't think you should, when you translate, you should not go too far away from the intention of the dialogue. When I was doing the older film, obviously commands and learning is not around, there is starting somewhere, and I looked out is not around, there is not either. But today's generation, the films I'm doing now, I will work first on the translation, then the assistant director will sit and say, I think this is it. Then the director and I will sit, and what you said about authors and translators, you form excellent relationships. You take it very seriously because you are contributing to their work in some way, and you are arguing, you fight your corner. If they don't like something, they want to change something to craziness. There was a line in Ranjit or something, in which he said, I don't know, something, I forgot the Hindi, but he wanted the translation, wanted the translation, grandpa's hair in hers. And I said, please don't do this, but they did. And there is a site on the net where they made fun of this particular line. And
Grandpa's hair in hers.
Yeah, it kills me. I think he kept it or something, I don't know. There is, the worst thing is the bad subtitles, which how many of you have noticed subtitles? And have you noticed are they bad or good or what?
Yeah.
Bad, I'm sorry to say the South Indian films are particularly problematic. Either they haven't understood or they want to literally translate everything and they haven't got the intention of what's happening. Now, for example, there is a site on the net called Pagal Subtitle. Anybody who wants a good laugh, please go to that. This site is run by an American, and she takes screen grabs, and she makes, she just shows you what they subtitled it. So this one, over here, so this is not very the right way of doing it. The original was Sat Sri Akal, and he says, hello Mr. Lakshman Singh, God is big. But worse than that, he added a question mark. So it becomes internal territory.
Okay, Muni, wait, oh, you're going to show more. Okay, I have some questions for you. Two more, all right.
And then this is a really tragic one, talking about songs. I don't know if any of you know the old song, old film called Aan with Kumar, and there's a song named Guru Chutake Pyar Ka Tufan. And they have got here Mr. Guru Kumar on his child postcard, and he's singing, "Today I'm holding my end in my fist." So what is anybody to make of it? So why do you think Indian films have been fun of for so many years? Especially the songs. In the West, you see a subtitle like that, you think, my God, what's Bolivia? And then this is the last one, Gulab Gang, which is 2014, it's not 1915 or 2. Sawan Ka Mahina Pawan Kare show. Now this one must be a quote from the original song, because obviously the original song is 1960s, not 2014. And it's Sawan Ka Mahina has become just a little rumble in the Bronx. Just in the Bronx. So I don't know how that happened.
Okay, there is one other, no, I've got a mic. Somebody in the audience decided it worked better with two mics, even though you decreed one. So, got a mic. No, you had another example, which would be nice, of that quote, Mangal.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
There was a film, I don't know if you've seen The Rising, Ketan Mehta's film, yeah, and Rahman's music, and I don't remember who was the lyricist, but anyway, there's a song in it, there's a chorus. It's a song, it's ballad of Mangal Pandey, and there's the song, Mangal, 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 and the subtitle reads, Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. So, I mean, subtitles, I would love to take a little film and subtitle it into a comedy. But somebody did this in the 70s. They took a film, a French person, I don't remember. I can't remember even the name of the film. Took the film, which was a mad, cool gangster film, and subtitled it in Marxist lingo. And it was a hysterical piece of work. Wonderful. And you could do that. Some kids on the YouTube do that often. They take a shot, a scene, and then they decide the narrative.
So, Muni, some of the things you're talking about are things we discussed in the morning also. When you speak about the place the subtitle has and what it has to capture in that very short space, but that capturing is assisted by or supported by the entire context, which is the context of facial expression, character building, atmosphere, time, language, and so on and so forth, right? In writing, as well, Geeta was referring to it this morning, that how do you actually create that context, because that's what holds a particular piece of writing together. In the work that you do, since you have subtitled older films and newer ones, have you noticed differences, say, in the lyrics, the songs, because you talked about songs? Have you noticed differences in the way language is used? And what does that mean for your subtitling? What are the challenges that presents? And then you have also subtitled for the platforms like Netflix and others. What's the difference between doing it for the big screen and the small screen, so to speak?
It's really in terms of what the film is saying. For example, you look at it like Piazza, the most difficult thing is not the dialogue, obviously it's his songs and his poetry. Now, so I know that he wrote the songs, have already made it simpler, made the songs instead of Dunena's Himper, it is something more complex. So he's already toned it down. You go very close to him, then you don't get around, and you just translate it elegantly. The question of timing is very important. The older stars and the newer stars, spoke much slower. All of us speak much slower than young people. And young people speak very fast. I don't know why they're in such a hurry, but they're in a hurry. So the question is they speak very fast. All these young people speak fast. Armin is speaking very fast. And so the shot in which he's speaking will only be 2 seconds or 3 seconds. And in 2 seconds, you could barely read 2 lines. So you have to be very precise and have to figure out something. However, you have to realize that in terms of translation itself, you have to stay close to the period. So if the film, for example, in the 50s, they use a word like mura. Now you never hear it. Now you won't hear papaya in the songs. You won't hear sanam so easily. You will hear a modern vocabulary. So if you can say darling, sweetheart today, but to say sanam and the pia and you say darling, it doesn't match. So you would say Obiwali. You would go for classic English. So you would match wherever possible. You match the period of the film and you match the character. So you're matching film, character, and then you're letting the film speak for its own. Usually the best subtitle is you don't notice it. When you're into the film and the subtitle has done a very good job. So that's really the basic difference. Web series, it's the same thing. It's a question of the short length. However, the character is developed over 6 hours because you've got 6 episodes. So the character development is slow. So you will not give away the character immediately. You give it as he gives it. Stay close to the text. Stay close to the film. And if you understand film editing, I would say that's 50% of your translation is understanding film editing. It's not just the words, you're cutting the picture. If you are reading the subtitle, your eye is going to that text. Right on the screen is the only thing you will be able to read. How many of you have managed to ignore a subtitle? Very difficult. So your eye goes there. So I always tell them, they want 2 lines, 3 lines or something for a song. I said, okay, आपने तो 20 करोड़ spend किए हैं इस गाने पे और ये 10 रुपए का subtitle पढ़ना है. So please, let us be brief and also don't underestimate the intelligence of the audience. You get it. Wherever you can, in translation, you use idioms because you have to appeal to a European audience. So instead of saying, I don't know, have you heard of this man? You say, yes, his name ring a bell. So you can make it dialogue. When you are arguing with a film director, you are actually rewriting the script in English. It is not translation, it's a rewrite language. Because the translation gives you a lot of time and scope. In a book, you could go for 4 paragraphs. But in a film, you are rewriting the script. And the script dialogue cannot go for 4 paragraphs. He has to finish quickly unless it's a monologue. Unless it is Mr. Button in Pigar. People बहुत खुश होंगे about the last scene in the temple. So you have to understand that already it's reduced. The text is already reduced.
So the kind of technical know-how that you're talking about, being so aware of the length and not having the subtitle overwhelm what's going on the screen.
If possible, go over the cut. You watch 2 cuts and the subtitle is going over, you will not see the cut.
So that's the other thing, that when you were talking about being an editor or being able to, how you cut, that's so essential for understanding how to subtitle. So is that where you think that, because you have also been an editor, so for you, subtitling without formally studying it became possible because of your learnings as an editor or the editing experience? I mean, what was it that, how have you grown in subtitling? What was it like in the early films? What is it? I know you said your first film was a mess, but how do you see yourself growing?
I think so absolutely right, because a lot to do with editing, because subtitles is at the service of a film, not at the service for translation literature. It's at the service of the film. You can ruin the film, as you can see. What person is going to actually take this seriously if you're running in the Bronx? So therefore you have to be at the service of the film. Everything makes a big difference. Language, first language, and also an understanding of writing dialogue. You can make it very flat, that's not good. I'll give you an example. Please forgive me, among all of these intellectuals who actually are translating, I would seem to be very full, but I tell you, I was very proud of one subtitle I came up with for Tiger 3. Salman Khan, the first scene of it. I'm sure there are very few people who've seen Tiger 3. One, oh, good. So there were Salman fans. Anyway, Salman comes along, and I think it's the first thing he says, and he's looking at this agent who's lying on the floor, and he's wounded or whatever, and Salman has come to save him because he's in Afghanistan, he's falling on the floor, and he looks at him and he says, "Bahut asan ki baat hai." And then I thought, what the hell? And I put right on your seat. And it was perfect. It was perfect. You wouldn't say, I haven't seen him for a long time. He's not in the salon in Paris. He's Salman Khan. So I understand character very well. And
Yes.
I like to say that. How do you know this fellow? How do you know that this guy has been
Because you did say that had it been another actor playing that role differently, you might not have used that phrase. So it's also, you understand.
You understand? And like I saw something, I think I know the person who did it, but I won't really know. Told me that and when Walker was telling me that, I don't know how, and they were looking, hey dude, where are you? Now how can you say dude for Charlie Bataan?
And
It's
it's
set in the 19th century. So, I mean, what are you doing? You are ruining the film, and you should think of this problem, because that is not your purpose. One thing on one hand is very good, is that I do run films, but they get me on the job, not as a film critic. They don't take me, ask me, what do you think of my film? Thankfully, they don't say, they expect me to do the job and go away. And I'm very grateful, because I'm not the film critic. I'm one of the team. So I get invited to the cast and crew, and I'm regarded as part of the crew. And I'm very lucky, because I can go from one setup, from Zoya Akhtar, Lady Heather or Kalimore, to Karan Rocky, then I go to Yashraj, and I'm working with somebody there, Pakan Kare, you know. So, and then keep moving. So you get a very, very good sense of the industry, and you're not there as a fan, you're there as someone who's useful to them. And that's a very nice, I'm very grateful for that.
Mani, why have subtitles become more important now? Before you answer that, Manisha, I forgot to bring my watch, so I can't keep track. 2:45. So we have about 15 minutes. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions and then open it up in case you have any questions. So in the past, we didn't care about subtitles and they were hardly there at all, but now every film has to have them. Does that have to do with wider distribution? Does that have to do with other things? Can you talk?
I think it has a lot to do with streaming channels. Young people here who are fans of Korean drama. So a lot of people are watching international shows. They don't speak Korean. They watch Call My Agent. They don't speak French. By the way, the subtitles in Call My Agent are brilliant. And they don't speak those languages. And subtitles have made the world much closer culturally. That is why I'm very grateful to you to include this in translation, because I think it actually speaks to millions of people. Much more, I wouldn't say should speak, but do speak. Millions more than next to it. Sad but true, that's a reality. And therefore, how you project the film that you make, it doesn't have to be a flippant film, it could be a very serious film, like that. So in subtitling, and one other thing that happened, which was very good for subtitles, is when the man who won Paradise, I can't pronounce his name, you know, he won Paradise, and he said in the Oscar night, when he received his award, he said, there is a way to cinema that you can watch if you could get over this 2-inch block of letters, which means subtitles. And it opens the world. You can watch African films, Chinese films, any kind of film thanks to subtitles, and people know this. How did he use Mr. Ray, subtitles Ray? How was he known in the West? Obviously his films count, but it's the subtitles help you to follow the story.
But that I think is, even though it's a different craft from, say, translating books or translating writing, but that also is the purpose of translation. That's what translation does. it expands, as Geeta was saying in the morning, as the panel with Devika, Rita, Vasanta Lakshmi, Saraswati was saying, it's an outward kind of movement, and it takes something into another realm, not only into another language. So in a sense, the scale may be different.
Into another culture. But the thing is, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but films are traveling much faster than literature.
Yeah, of course.
It's not a good thing, I would say, but this is the reality. This is the reality.
Yeah, don't we know it? Us publishers, we know it. It's a tragedy for us anyway. Okay, one last thing. Tell us about just one moment that you remember in subtitling. Funny, sad, good, thoughtful, challenging moment, or another funny story.
I don't think there's many funny stories, but I just say that everything has a funny story. And sometimes you think, my God, who wrote this dialogue? Really, the cliches. You could say, oh, I can pull out subtitle number 232 and put it here. I can pull out number 302 and put it here. Very rarely you get a dialogue. Very rarely. And the songs, honestly, the songs today, in the old songs, you have a number of different types of songs. One typical song that I think is very beautiful, because to me it mixes dialogue and lyrics, is the conversation song. Again, I also it's basically a dialogue. And to me, those conversations are very interesting. But it is about love, and there's the way it's shot is that two people are really close, and that's a world that they create. The song today is about the outside. So it's not about intimate love, it's about the concept of love. It's the cliche of love. It is not really the truth to people, which is what your idea of love is. So I don't remember any way, I don't know whether you know, but the song that even touches some of Sayo's or Sharon's work. And for no other reason is that the intimacy has gone out of the film song. There's no intimacy left.
The spectacles in some ways.
In terms of the visual, in terms of the memory.
And also a lot of Hindi cinema, I don't know in other languages, the songs now are Hinglish, a mix of Hindi and English. What does that do for you as a subtitler?
It's very messy because neither is used well. Neither is used well. And also when you say the old songs, you do not say Hindi, you must say Hindi. The original songs, they come from the Indian tradition, absolutely. And I tell you what, I once said something to that, I don't know interesting point. In Hindustani, where people speak, and they are talking, they will replace the Hindi word with an English one. Instead of saying, I don't know what you should have, they say, I'm not famous. So this is happening all the time. And in Hindi fields, you will see there's one line in English, one line in, it's confusing the international audience completely, so you have to subtitle both. If he's speaking in English, you have to match each word. So if he says, hello, how are you? I haven't seen you for a long time, you have to say exactly that. Because the ear can't hear something and mean something else. So there's also that problem with English.
Fascinating, the whole thing. Okay, well, if you have any questions, there are lots of hands have come up. Okay, let me see how many hands, then we can ask questions. I'll start with you and Vasanta Lakshmi, then Geeta, Rita. Hold on, you. So let's take those four, and then I'll come to you. We won't leave anyone out. Keep them brief, please. Mic is there is a mic.
5 minutes में नहीं होने वाला.
You said 15.
This is not a film. We can manage.
Okay, we'll take little more than 5. We'll just.
I just wanted to ask one question. Is dubbing better or subtitling better?
100% subtitling, because the dubbing is not always done with the actor, so it's a fragmented performance.
But all people can't read English or whatever language.
No, the Hindi out there, you don't have Hindi subtitles. We're talking about English subtitles.
No, but visually challenged people.
Oh, visually challenged? They can't see the film right away, so you have dubbed.
No, not just visually challenged. There are several languages across, no? So all people might not be able to read either Hindi or English. But dubbing is a different thing.
That is a different story, but dubbing is good, but don't forget it becomes a different performance. How come you dub Dilip Kumar? You can't get that voice. You couldn't get Cary Grant. You can't get these old guys. Tom Hanks you can't get. So people don't accept.
We take the next question.
Hello, ma'am. I've subtitled for 3 Telugu films here.
I must check out which ones.
Not so great ones. But the main issue here is they're not ready to show the final product to us, the film. So what do we get is the final bound script. And the timing that you had mentioned that Amir Khan does it in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, we don't have prior knowledge of it.
Then you cannot do it properly.
Exactly, and there are subsequent rifts between us and the filmmaker community. And we also, neither of us is happy with the product. Any way we could resolve it.
If you want the film to be appreciated, you must show it to me. If you are the first audience and you don't get it, no one else will. And you have to insist. You have to insist.
And the issue here is there's no proper forum for subtitlers and all. I think it's the same case with most industries. So they hand it over to journalists like me, like a parcel assignment or something of sort. So they are not trusting us fully, and there's no forum to discuss the issues that we face or something.
That is a big thing what you brought up, is trust. If you are working on the film or production, you have to sign an NDA that you will not discuss the film till it's released. Because you could go around, tell all your friends and put it on Facebook that this film X and Y I'm working on is rubbish. And that's why they're very scared. However, in France there is a big union for subtitles, and the first credit after the film ends, the first credit that comes is the subtitler. But if you tell the producer, you have first credit should be assuming the hit, I will be packed off to Australia.
No, I just wanted to.
One of the challenges is subtitling for documentaries, because I've done that myself, because there the thought is so important, and somehow it simply hasn't worked, as well as say some excellent film subtitling as well. How do you see that?
I think it depends who you're working with. If you're working with a good subtitler, you will make the documentary work. We've seen films like Fed or Wiseman with film subtitles. They're the master documentary filmmaker. Absolutely. I hate to say this, the person you're working with isn't professional.
No. What I mean is, when you actually work with an Indian filmmaker on documentaries, there seems to be no recognition of the fact it's different from regular feature cinema.
You have to explain why it is different.
Yeah.
Because there's not written dialogue, so you have to match it in character. And you have to use a certain different kind of vocabulary, otherwise it's going to come across as foreign.
Exactly. So they expect you to subtitle like you do feature films. And
You have to persuade them. Even there is that, mentioning the persuasion that goes on is amazing. Persuasion, when somebody I was working with, he wanted one expression, hits out in the park. I said, how many times are you going to say that? It's going to be that I run out of vocabulary. You have to persuade them. They are not subtitles. The worst kind of the director situation is, you give good subtitles and they start picking each line. When you've got a working list, you let it go and get exported down the road. What do you say?
And the problem also is, like in a film, you have the lyricist, you have the script writer, the actor. In a documentary, it's often the director who has created the narrative, and sometimes
He's filmed by editing, but he's filmed real people. So he has to match the real people. If somebody is speaking in the country, you can't speak Shakespearean language in the subtitle. No, you have to insist. If they speak in Bangalore, and then you're making it like Farazan Flowers. How can you do?
sometimes it's a voiceover of the director, no?
The voiceover is his property.
Yeah, so there's nothing you can do there. That's the problem.
It's not a gentle persuasion, but it's never going to work.
Yeah. So, Nasreen, you were quite modest when you said, I'm not asked of my opinion because I'm not a film critic, I'm only a subtitler, but you also happen to have a very, very vast range and an intimacy with at least Hindi films of the kind that is rare to see. and then to go from Pyasa to Pathan, to be able to get the idiom of. So out of that intimacy, my question to you is that, do you think, without wanting to essentialize and refine something, do you think there is a certain kind of grief, melancholy of the kind that we see in cinema? Do you find that a very South Asian phenomenon? Do you find that only a Hindi film phenomenon? Did you encounter it in the South, for instance? What are some of your observations about these relations which you are day to day, day in and day out, you are examining those between people and words and subjectivities? So I would love to know something outside that as an observer of the. And my second question was, that's a lot of films, for instance, if there's a film based in Bombay, you mentioned Bombaya Hindi, wo sab to theek hai. But the cops will speak in Marathi. They will not speak just in Bombaya Hindi. So what do you do also about the other Indian languages that are increasingly common to see in cinema?
Okay, that's a very good question. I will tell you, I'll take your second question first. For example, I noticed there was a series called Powder. Powder was very good on season 1. For season 2, they had gone berserk. But season 1, what he did was, it goes between Hebrew and Arabic. So he put Hebrew in straight regular and Arabic in brackets, close brackets. Now, if I did that, for the Hindi film when we're speaking in Marathi, it will look like closed captions. Car honking, rain pattern, and so on. So I have to let it pass, even though there are absolutely this problem. Now some people say speaking in Marathi. Now the Netflix and all, they say speaking in Punjabi. But I think it's
Or they say speaking in a foreign language.
true, but Godfather is speaking in Italian. Nobody tells you this is Italian. You have to figure some stuff out. The first part is a very complex question, which the reason they know I know a lot about cinema because they read my books, they've seen my documentaries, they know my work, and I think if I'm being not modest, I do fear my answer. I fear my answer.
You're being not modest.
And I will not be rude because it's a work in progress. You can't ask a cook while he's making biryani, he's saying namak kam hai. He's not finished yet. But I will say, yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I will say, you mentioned this in this scene, but how are we going to know that this character is in scene number 25? There is no logic. I pointed out logic, but I find it very, very difficult to tell people that it's not a good film. It was like I had to quote Raja. Raja said, someone asking him if this film was good or bad, he said it's like asking a mother whether their child is going to be a little monster. About the language? And that means, do I feel the loss of the whole film? No.
Whether you see this phenomenon across India, whether it's our imagination.
I think you see it in Hollywood too. You see the films today in Hollywood. They're not what they were in the 50s. Really not. They're slicker. You took the Marvel movies, they were action movies. Now it's all action movies in Hindi cinema. They cater to today's people. And today's people cannot sit through Pyasa. How many young people here sit through Sagar, forget about, but Pyasa? One. Yes. Yeah, some old people also find it impossible. The pace is impossible for people. I can't sit through Sagar. He seems Balama. I think what is this fellow going to show off for God's sake?
Hello, welcome. Listen, we've got 2-3 more questions. Just take them. Manisha will hit us on
So I want to ask you, I found your talk so interesting. I mean, I think there are, so many people, millions around the world that love Bollywood and film, and I would say that they would be so envious of what you do and the work that you've done and how you've made, Bollywood palatable to all the Indian diaspora around the world. I thought it was interesting, two things that you talked about. One was the loss of intimacy over the years, and song is such a important part of what we enjoy about entertainment. and losing that, like losing the essence of that depth that used to be there in those old songs. And I also wanted to ask you, is it maybe a transition from Urdu, which was much more, Hindustani and known, and the depth of the Urdu language, and now unfortunately it's a dying language in the country, and no one knows Urdu, or no one is being taught Urdu anymore, hardly. So what do you say about those two perspectives? One was the language, was the language bringing in that, and two was just the change of sentiment over time.
I think it was both. It was change of sentiment, and younger people are not less sentimental, but they want another type of sentimentality, not that type. And the older poets were poets, while today's guys are not real poets. I would say Zubaan book and the poetry of one or two of today's guys. There's that. Yes, so Urdu, the vocabulary, there's that. The intimacy, and also the use of the song in the museum has gone. When you go into something more realistic, the song has now been played in the background, not lip sync, not in the foreground. So the intimacy also decreases because of where the position of the song is. Actually movies don't lend themselves, so you get outer numbers. Swag is swagat, whatever that song is. Even you get the dance numbers, but the intimate song, they're not there. And when did you last see a duet?
Okay, two more questions. One here and then. No, you wait. He's before you and then you here. Please go ahead.
So whatever films that I have seen since my childhood, especially the world cinema, thanks to the subtitles. So all the Russian, new wave French cinema, everything is. So now that we hear a lot about the artificial intelligence, most of our routine, mundane, literary aspect will be taken over by the technology. So do you think that subtitling would also be outsourced to the technology in some sense? And what kind of emotions?
The same, but I wanted to add, is it already being done in, whatever?
I can tell you something. AI will not be able to master Tamil surnames. So I will be open for a long time. They cannot master names. The spelling of names with AI is very tough for them. People have tried Google Translate for subtitles. It has been disastrous. So I would a filmmaker who has a little budget, he will do the subtitles himself or get somebody. He will not rely on Google. It's like, it's not possible. I don't know about web translation, but film translation is so specific. The names is a problem, the title, what are you going to do with all this? You will have to train AI to recognize all this. Maybe now you can do all this. But by then, hopefully we won't do around.
Okay. So that's
And you're very bad. How do you do sometimes? He says one thing, the sometimes he says something else.
I think we're done. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Muni. We're waiting here for 1 minute. Muni to be felicitating, and then Manisha, then we have a...
Felicitate the panelists, please. Applause, everybody. अच्छा उर्वशी को नहीं मिला. Thank you. Which is called From Inkling to Certainty. And it is my great pleasure to invite onto the stage all my panelists one by one. Guys, do you need chairs?
Yes. So we're going to have both the men and one side.
So as we set up the chairs, I'll start reading out their introductions. We have Geeta Ramaswamy, who's worked extensively with Dalits on manual scavenging, bonded labor, agricultural wage labor and land entitlements. She's authored The Child and the Law, UNICEF, 1996, Women and the Law, UNICEF, 1997, and co-authored a number of significant books on marginalized communities. Her own story, Land, Guns, Caste, Women, The Memoirs of a Lapsed Revolutionary by Navyana in 2022 has been very well received. She's run the renowned Telugu publishing house Hyderabad Book Trust since its inception and has numerous translations to her credit. Geeta, welcome. Dilip Raj is currently working as an assistant professor in philosophy at Government Brennan College, Thalassery. He worked in the publishing industry as commissioning editor at DC Books and as resident editor at Penguin Books India, Malayalam. He is involved in carving out a constituency for critical and creative original theoretical works in Malayalam. He is one of the founders of Praxis Collective that has published in collaboration with Insight Publica, an independent Malayalam publisher. He is instrumental in starting Brennan Press, a publishing wing for the Government Brennan College, which has brought out 11 books, including anthologies by Adivasi poets. Sanjay Joshi, he has a master's in Hindi literature from JNU and he studied mass comm at MCRC Jamia Millia. He's made several documentaries for government and NGO or non-governmental organizations. He's the founder of Cinema of Resistance. He was associated with the first film festivals of numerous tier 2 and 3 cities across the Hindi belt between March 2006 and December 2015. Till date, he has helped curate 73 Cinema of Resistance film festivals in different Indian cities and numerous small screenings for different groups. He runs a Hindi publishing house, Navarun, which has published 58 titles so far. We have Mamta. She works as an assistant professor at JN University, Bangalore, but she gave me to understand that she's just given up that job and she's now with the Alternative Law Forum. And she's the director of our organization called Beru, which is located at Anikal. Beru focuses on women's mental health, life skills for children and counseling. She runs Kaudi Prakashana since 2023 with a focus on publishing books that promote a just and peaceful world. And there is me, who's going to be moderating this panel. We are running a little bit late, so we'll go straight into the panel now.